Hello, everybody. It's a great honor that we are, having dear Professor Donald Cannon as our teacher today, who is going to speak about acquiring plain English for lawyers. This kind of webinars have been designed for you as law students or as law students, lawyers, future lawyers that are going to practice in any field of law, especially international law, international trade law, which you know that you have to know the English language, and the much stronger you know the English language, so you can be a better lawyer or advocate in future. Um, I have to maybe begin with some introduction about Professor Donald Cannon. He is the professor of Prickly Center for International Legal Education in Moscow, and he teaches English writing skills for lawyers. He has been teaching there, I think, for more than 40 or 50 years in Russia to lawyers mostly about English language or something like that, and especially writing skills, which we're not really good at, we the lawyers, I mean, and we make things very complicated. Uh, yeah, and he's also professor at Federal Baltic University in Kaliningrad in Russia, which is located between Estonia and Poland, if I'm not wrong. And today we have the honor, yeah, to speak with you regarding the most important tips you have to know as a law student about acquiring the English language and the method you have to use to make that happen.
First of all, let me say thank you for attending. You afford me a great honor, and I hope in some way I can return the honor to you. I just find it very humbling, actually, to be able to speak to you this evening. I'd like to make one correction. Professor Masoudian mentioned our methodology. What kind of methodology do we have, Ali? What is our methodology called?
No methodology.
Right. Okay. That's because once we accept a methodology, it's kind of like having a political stance. And everybody learns differently. You learn in your own way. And if you're forced into a certain kind of a methodology, then it doesn't work for you, or often it doesn't work for you. Um, so I once had a student, we were working on vocabulary, and I had a hard time explaining a certain word. I don't remember the word, but once I got it explained, she said to me, or she just mentioned, that smells like lilacs. And I thought, what do you mean that smells like lilacs? And she says, well, I remember by smells. So, everybody does things differently. That's why we don't use any methodology. Whatever works. Okay, so do you see the screen with the picture of the pointillist painting, the sea picture, the seascape? Okay, this is it's a kind of representation of how our course works. If you notice, the painting is all made up of little dots. If you get up close to the picture, you see only the dots, and they don't seem to make any sense. That's the details of the grammar in English, or how English goes together. When you step back from the picture, you see the picture as an actual whole picture. You see the whole thing. We're going to be doing this the whole time. We're going to be going in close, looking at the details of English and how it works, and then we're going to step back and say, oh yeah, in, out, all of the time. Another analogy for how the course works is what I call just a glass of water. You go to an ordinary, or I shouldn't say an ordinary, but a university course, and figuratively, your professor will give you a glass of water, which you drink throughout the entire course over 4 months or whatever. We're going to do this differently. Each time we meet, I'm going to give you a glass of water. And this glass of water contains the entire English language. And I want you to drink this glass of water down completely in just that session down. Okay, that means you're getting all of English thrown at you at once. Some of it will stick, some of it won't stick. But the more you drink it, the more frequently you go through this operation, you will start acquiring English. Drinking is acquiring. And that's where we go. We talk about acquiring a language rather than learning. And what's the difference between learning a language and acquiring a language? Well, language acquisition and learning are processed in two different ways and two different areas of the brain. I like to think that when we acquire, it's like in the green area, and when we learn and we keep studying, it's in the red area. Now, the red area, you'll notice, is bigger because when we study, it just takes more time, more effort, and we stuff our information in. However, when we acquire, we just kind of put it away and know how to use it. And the processing is different, and the retrieving is different. When we take something out of the green area, it just comes to us automatically. When we take something out of, let's say, the red area where we've learned things, it takes us a longer time. We have to think, for example, well, what verb form do I use? Do I use a past progressive or whatever? And you think through this whole litany of ideas before you can come to the actual word that you're using. That's what the difference is. And it slows you down. It slows your thought processing down, and it slows your speaking down. So we're going to be working on acquiring new skills. And by acquiring, I mean, you see how the little girl is riding the bicycle with the wheels? We call these training wheels. She'll eventually take them off, and you'll do the same thing. But you're going to be using these tricks that keep you running, keep you riding while you are, keep you balanced while you're riding. That's the thing, the acquiring new skills. The next thing, of course, is we're back to here because the acquiring builds muscle memory. What we're doing is you're learning to say things, to write things, to process English differently. And it's all related to muscle memory. That's why it's so difficult. I have, Russian students. Russian doesn't have any articles, for example. And it's so very difficult for people to have to use articles when they don't even know what they are, okay? They don't make any sense. And that comes with muscle memory, okay? It's just like you say, I saw a play last night, but I'm not coming up with a good example. We'll talk about it when we get to articles, and we're going to start with articles in the class because that's one of the main things. Okay, so now, one of the things in our building our muscle memory is we're going to talk about vocabulary. And the thing is that you don't know a word unless you can use it correctly. And how do you use it correctly? You have to use it in live conversation. And that's what we're going to be doing. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a live conversation, but that means you have to work on it. Well, what I'll ask you to do is we'll discuss vocabulary, and there'll be a lot of it. We're not going to say, the word acquire or the word lean means such and such. We're going to use these words in sentences, in live sentences. So I want you to write your sentences in advance, and we'll talk about them in class, and we'll say, well, are they right? And quite often, they're not quite right. Like you've got the word, but you don't have the right verb with it, or you've got the verb, but you don't have the right preposition with it. So it doesn't come together as a whole sentence. And that's what the problem is when you just study vocabulary as words. You're not thinking of it as blocks of language, for example. So, and the important thing is, in the vocabulary, you want to use the words that you want to add to your vocabulary. things that are helpful in your daily life or in your work life. So that's what's the important thing about vocabulary. Now, I want to go to this little word, credit. Okay. And how would you say in Farsi, help me say this, I took out a loan from the bank. How would you say that? Anybody? I'll repeat it. I took out a loan from the bank. I want to hear it in Farsi. No? Everybody's so quiet today.
Please orally intervene, speak to us. We cannot see what you're writing there. Just turn on your microphone and intervene.
Yeah, say something.
Yeah, say something, please.
Say, okay, I took out a loan from the bank in Farsi.
I took out a loan from the bank.
Okay. Okay, you need to buy a car. So you go to the bank and you take out a loan and you get a car loan for however much money you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ali, will you tell me how you would say it in Farsi?
Okay, we say in Farsi, من یک وام از بانک گرفتم.
Oh, very simple. Okay, I won't be able to repeat it, but I think I understood bank in there. Okay.
Yeah, we use the same word.
Yeah. I think it's everywhere. Okay. Now, what my Russian students say when I ask them in Russian, how do you say it in English? They say, I got a credit from the bank. Okay. And they don't realize that there's a difference between credit and loan. Can anybody tell me what the difference is between credit and loan? Anybody? Any ideas? Any ideas? Let's just explore the topic for a second. Anybody?
دوستان ما فقط صداتون رو باید بشنویم ما یعنی نمیتونیم چت رو ببینیم. We only can hear you when you speak with us. Yeah.
I'm no good on the texting the chat, so I don't even open it up, and we won't use it. We'll have to speak directly. Okay. The texting takes too much time, and it's not real live conversation, unfortunately. Okay, well, let me just go on then, because if we talk about, okay, I took out a loan from the bank is actually the way we have to say it. But when we talk about credit, we bought furniture on credit. That means we went to the store, we signed an agreement, they gave us the furniture, there's no money involved, and we get to use the furniture for 3 months, and then we start paying in installments. In other words, we didn't get any money, we got goods, and then we paid off the goods. If we talk about a loan, however, a car loan, we get advanced money, and the money goes toward the purchase of a car with some other third party. Actually, the bank is the third party there. Okay, so let's look at credit because it's really interesting where it comes from. It comes from Latin, credere, to believe or trust. Now, you're lawyers. You should know a certain amount of Latin. I don't know how important it is in Iran and in Iranian law, but certainly even here in Russia, my students have to study Roman law, and they have to know the Roman concepts. They have to know a lot of the Latin that goes with it. We're going to be talking about Latin a lot because it forms the basis of so much in English, okay? About 30% of our words in English are of Latin origin. And so we want to remember where it comes from because that's the basis. I said you don't know a word unless you can speak it. You also have to know all of the different forms of it. And like, for example, the defense produced a very credible witness. When we talk about a credible witness, it's one who can be believed or trusted. Okay? So we've got credit, credible. Okay? The situation is completely incredible or basically unbelievable. All right? Let's go one step further. The prosecution showed how credulous the victim was. The victim, sorry, the victim believed the people who scammed him. He was too he was too trusting, and he got taken advantage of. So we've got credible, incredible, credulous, credibility, incredibility, credulity. Okay, let's go further. You get a credit for this class if you're in, let's say, in a university, or he is a credit to his profession. All right, that means people respect him as a professional. We can accredit somebody. Let me see. You might have a commercial attaché at the embassy who is accredited to the embassy. You can discredit people who don't do things correctly. Okay, we use a letter of credit, for example, in commercial transactions. And in street jargon, we have what we call street cred. Okay, in other words, out on the street, this person is known to be a credible, a trustworthy person. He has a good reputation. Actually, if you look, you see street cred used a lot in blogs, for example. And we even go to a legal concept here: full faith and credit. Okay. Do you know what that means, Ali? Full faith and credit. Do you have anything like that in Iranian law?
I think it's related to the federal US government. And when you, for example, have an accident in a state in the US, and for example, imagine we are having an accident in Washington, and
Mm-hmm.
then in another state of the US, that lawsuit which came out of the accident can be executed.
Right. Yeah. If let's say we have an accident in the state of Washington, and we go to the neighboring state of Idaho, the person who's responsible goes to the state of Idaho, and either lives there or wants to get away from the accident. Still, the person whose car was damaged can get a judgment against the person in Washington state, and Washington and Idaho will then recognize the judgment from Washington as enforceable in Idaho. Do you have anything like that in Iran, or is everything federal?
Because Iran is not a federal country, I don't think we have such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You see, and we're going to be talking about these differences. So in a way, you will be educating me too about how the Iranian system works.
Yeah.
Any questions? Any questions on credit? Okay. I'm going to be giving you a lot of etymology. Let's look at one other thing. For example, confidence. Okay. When you're confident, what are you? You feel assured. You feel that you know what you're doing. And this comes from calm, which is with, and fidere, again, Latin, meaning, what does it mean? Anybody?
Confidence.
Faith. Faith. Again, it's very close to the belief and the trust, but it's just slightly different. You have faith in what you're doing. Now look at how many different words we get out of just this calm confidere in Latin. We get confident. Confidence, confident. I feel confident that I'm going to win my case in court. Okay. We have a confidant. Confidant. Actually, we'll say confident, but it's spelled with an A instead of an E. And that's a person to whom you tell your secrets. Okay. Um, because you can trust that person. That person won't give your secrets away. Confidentiality. This is a legal concept. The confidentiality between a client and lawyer. That's sacrosanct in any legal situation. Okay. Affidavit. An affidavit is a document that, let's say, a witness signs. I saw three men enter the apartment just before something horrible happened, for example. So that's an affidavit. Okay, we have a signed affidavit stating that two men were seen entering the building. Okay, now that might form the basis of this affidavit, might form the basis for a police officer to go to a judge and get a warrant to be able to search this apartment or the house. So it all has to do with faith and trust again. Bona fide, or as we like to say, bona fide, in good faith. Okay, we have a bona fide agreement between the buyer and the seller. It means it's a good agreement. Okay, a bona fide agreement. There we go. Okay, fidelity. What is fidelity? I love this one. Okay.
The state of being loyal to your wife or your husband.
Exactly. Tell your husband it's fidelity or divorce. Okay. One or the other. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. Fiduciary. This is another one. Trustworthy. Fiduciary. What is this? Anybody? A fiduciary is the executor of a will has a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the beneficiary. For example, let's say we're talking about some kind of a trust. I want to set up a trust for my children for when they get of age. And the fiduciary who is taking care of this has to act in my best interests and has to be loyal to me. We have also federal and we have federation, for example. And my favorite is just to show how far down this goes into how we use these words and these derivations. We have Fido. Fido is one of the most common names for a dog because a dog is loyal and trusting. So that's where we get these types of things. And what I mean to say, we think of Latin. Well, Latin was 2,000 years ago. Why are we studying? No, it isn't 2,000 years ago. It's very obviously today. We have Fido, and why do we know it's Fido? Just because we know it's there. It's part of the language. All of these nuances are embedded, were embedded from the Latin words that we borrowed, 2,000 years ago, and they're still there, okay? So we're going to be talking about basically a lot of vocabulary. We'll start out with writing in plain English. And that is going to be kind of our beginning point. Writing is usually the hardest for lawyers because they want to write long sentences that get very involved and that nobody can understand. So we're going to be learning about writing in a way that anybody can understand it, anybody who's not a lawyer. I don't know how many of you have clients who come to you and ask for help, but when you explain things to them, you have to explain it in terms that they understand, not in terms that you and another trained lawyer can understand. So that's what we're going to be talking about, writing, first of all. We'll have a lot of grammar. We will have standardized exam questions like the three that you answered today, and we will be working on vocabulary. Those are our four building blocks, basically. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a lot of rules to follow. All right. For example, I'm going to give you two writing truths. And if you follow them, they'll work. Okay. So, truth number one, very simple. Every word you write either improves your meaning or worsens it. Every single word. You have to count every word that you've used and see what it does to your writing. So, any word that doesn't enhance your message automatically diminishes it, just maybe by the fact that there are too many words in there. So, get rid of all these words. We're going to be talking about getting rid of words rather than adding more words in. That's what's probably most important. This is just an example of some of the rules I'm going to be giving you. And I'd like to tell a little story. I was teaching an upper level English class, and we met for 3 hours, I think twice a week. They were long lessons. And I had given the students the homework to write an ordinary office email. And I'd given them a lot of rules to follow. They were difficult to follow because one rule would contradict another rule, or trying to get them all to work at the same time was really difficult. So when we met to discuss the emails, well, they were really pretty much a mess. I had I think 5 students. We took maybe an hour and a half just to go through the first four emails that were there. One student was not able to be there at the beginning. And we took everything apart, looked at it, and made different suggestions. It was a lot of work. Then we went on with the rest of our lesson. About an hour before the end, our fifth student came in. She joined us, and at the end of the lesson, she pulled out her email and handed it to me. And I thought, oh my God, here we go again. You're gonna have to spend another 20 minutes with her at the end of the class just to explain what would happen. I started reading, and I read, and I read, and I read, and I read, and there was nothing to say. It was a perfect memo. And I was really surprised. I handed it back to her, and I said, Tanya, you've just written a perfect office memo. And all of the students were amazed because everything that they had done was really highly criticized. They'd criticized it a lot. They said, well, how did you do it, Tanya? And she said, just follow the rules. And that's what I want you to do. Just follow the rules. Don't think about what you're writing. Don't think about the right words. Just follow the rules. And the rules will get you there. That's just kind of the way it works. So, next question. Does anybody recognize this?
Hi.
Anybody?
Mike.
Anybody?
Come on, everybody must have seen it.
Yeah, they know. They know.
Nike. Yeah, good, exactly. All right, is Nike sanctioned where you live? We're sanctioned. We can't buy them anymore except for twice the price. Well, anyway, okay, let's not get into
We do
politics.
have Nikes in Iran, but it's like, I think, in Russia, double the price in another countries here in Iran. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're coming from. I think our Nikes come through Kazakhstan or Tajikistan or something like that. Maybe from China. I don't know. But anyway, I mean, I've given up on trying to buy this stuff. So, anybody know what the motto is for my Nike? What are the words that they have?
The motto means shoar.
Shohar.
Shoar.
Shoar, okay?
Yeah.
So let's have Nike Shoar.
Nike shoar. Yeah.
Shoar Nike, maybe?
Shoar Nike, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm trying to remember. I'll try to remember that.
You
Okay.
have to after shoare. For example, if you say shoare in
Oh,
Farsi,
Again,
it
that's
means
right.
Professor, I think the motto
Of.
tomorrow.
is
Of means
just do
of.
it.
Yeah, shore Nike.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. So what is our motto going to be? Our motto is going to be just follow the rules. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. And believe me, it works. It really works. Okay. And here's what it's all about. If you follow the writing rules that I've given you, you will end up writing and speaking at least 40% better than you are currently doing. Okay. It really
yeah.
works. I give writing rules to Russian Jessup students, and these writing rules have helped these Jessup teams consistently fall within the top best memorials at the international competition in Washington, D.C. I mean, they're coming back with, fourth, fifth places. They're writing in a language that is not their native, and yet they're writing better than native speakers do. So, in fact, I will show you one of these memorials, and you'll see how it works. Okay, good. Okay, so here are some of the rules. No passives. Can anybody give me an example of a passive? What's a passive form in English? Anybody?
Passive.
A
Majhul.
passive, huh?
In Farsi, majhul.
Majhul.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Majhule form. I don't know.
You're learning. Yeah,
Well, we're all learning. When we stop learning, we stop living. Okay.
yeah,
Passive. Okay. Okay. I'll give you one. Okay. The work was done. We have no idea who did it. Okay. Now, that's in the past tense. We have it also in the present tense. The work is being done. We still have no idea who is doing it. Another passive form is what we call impersonal phrases. And we have a lot of these. It is necessary to do the work. It is essential. It is critical. Things like this. And we also have another form that's in passive. There are 4 important points that I want to make. No, I want to make 4 important points. Okay?
yeah.
Instead of there are 4 importance I want to make. It doesn't work. It's weak. Okay? So, other short sentences, I want you to use no more than 25 words per sentence, no more than 2 ideas per sentence max. And if you need more words or more ideas, just start a new sentence. That's all you do. It's very easy. That's following the rules. Okay? And I want you to use normal English word order. Subject, verb,
Can I add
object,
a
and
comment here?
of course. Stop
Exactly.
me
Yesterday,
when anybody
I
when anybody has a question. Jump right in the middle of my sentence, just the way Professor Masoudian did, because
I'm
this is
not a
how we
professor.
learn. Okay, go.
Don't mention it. I'm not a professor. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. I was reading just today at 10 p.m. I have to 10 a.m. I have to let you know that that was a submission due for 100 Donan Memorial Moot Court competition, which is a
Mm.
moot court in the field of international humanitarian law. So the last draft, I was reading the last draft of my team representing Tehran University. At around maybe last night around 1 a.m., something like that, or around 11 p.m. And there was a common mistake that is made by a lot of Iranians, that they keep tending to make their sentences very long. They use, for example, and they do not just put a period or dot to make it shorter, make the sentences shorter. Rather, they use comma and then and they, prolong the sentences. And so I was reading a sentence that was very hard to understand, and it was something like 6 or 7 lines.
That's exactly what we're going to be looking at. And if you follow the rules, you don't get more than 25 words, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know how Tolstoy translates into Farsi, but he's known in Russian for his very long sentences. Now, they work for him because he knows how to do it. But you know, how many people are Tolstoys or Dostoevsky's or Dickens's or famous authors? Not very many people, and certainly not very many lawyers. We'll be talking about this very same thing, okay? And that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is to keep the word count down, to keep the idea count down in a sentence, and do it all in active verbs. We'll be talking about this in depth. That's what the essence of our writing is. Okay, so let's go on again for some of the rules. Oops, sorry, here, the rules, okay? Don't write pretty, okay? I once had a student come to me with her memorial, and she had this very complex argument, and her third paragraph was almost impossible. We spent 20 minutes going through 3 sentences, and we got to the 4th sentence, and she had this one word in here that just didn't fit at all. It was all off. And I said, well, why did you choose this word? And she said, well, I wanted to use that word because I thought it sounded pretty. And I realized that she had chosen the word that she wanted to use, and she had written everything around it rather than around the idea. So what we do is we don't write pretty, we write for meaning. And what happens when we have meaning and when we have simple sentences, then this funny thing starts happening because the pretty words start coming of their own accord. They just suggest themselves to you. But that's only when you've got it simple, okay? TMI. What's that? Anybody? Anybody know what TMI is?
We have to wait for their participation first for 15 seconds. And if they don't, I will let you know.
Okay, fine. TMI.
TMI. Do you know, guys, what TMI stands for?
I'm sure you've heard it in blogs all over the place.
Too much information.
Okay, now here's an example of too much information. First of all, how much do we really need? Here we go. We would like to inform you that due to a cessation in the main gas supply to the complex, no hot water will be available today between 1000 and 1800. Can anybody tell me how? Oh, there's the word count. 30 words. Way too much. Can anybody tell me how to make it simpler?
Please say something, guys.
Well, first of all, let's look at what we don't need. We would like to inform you that. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. So you never say, I'm going to tell you that we need milk. You're just going to say, we need milk, okay? So we throw that away, okay? Then, due to a cessation in the main gas supply to the complex, is that necessary? Do we have to give them the reason?
Reason? No.
Probably no. We're just informing them that, you know, you got to take your showers before 10 o'clock, and you don't get a shower until after 1800, okay? So how about this? Hot water will be shut off today between 10 and 18.
1000.
Okay, 100, however you want to say it. Well, we would say between 10 o'clock and 6 o'clock, probably is the way we would say it in saying it. Or if
one third of the first sentence, 1/3. 11 words.
11 words.
Yeah,
11 words. Good, okay? So, but let's say you're just sending a quick email. No hot water today, 10 to 18. Basta così. That's enough. We're finished. That's it. 7 words. That's all you really need. So we're going to be talking about writing in this way. We're also going to talk about my friend Joe Einstein. Joe Einstein has 3 axioms of reality. This is his first one for writing, okay? And you can see he writes in scientific script, okay? E sub F equals C, where E equals erudition, or, how much you know. F is Farsi, and C is complexity. So what's he saying? Anybody? Who can tell me what that means? Anybody?
Is this a question?
Yes, it's a question. It's a question. Can tell
No,
me.
I'm not sure whether I'm using the correct equivalent. Equation. When we have in mathematics, we have
No,
one
it's equation.
equation.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
it's the way, it's like MC squared equals
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's the same idea here. So if we talk about erudition, in other words, how much we know in Farsi, or when we express how much we know in Farsi, it has to be complex. In other words, it has to be long, the long sentences that you were talking about, Ali, of how, so that it sounds important.
I'm not, getting this point very clearly. Can I ask you a question here?
Of course, please do.
You mean it's only in English that simplicity should, matters or something like that, and in Farsi, so when we speak complicated, that's maybe that works in Farsi, but that does not work in English. Do you mean that?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know Farsi enough, other than what I've heard, and certainly, I mean, I only know a few words. But from what I see, I think that Farsi is a language that likes to sound complicated, especially those people who know a lot. They want to make themselves sound important, and by making themselves important, by making themselves complicated so that people can understand very well, that means they're important. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? However, it works the other way around in English. Okay? So erudition here, the E, sub E in English is simplicity. And when I hear a simple thought expressed elegantly, I think, oh, yeah, this person really knows what he's talking about. I don't know if anybody has read the opinions of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the former Supreme Court judges. She died maybe some six years ago. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, maybe even longer. She was amazing for how she wrote her opinions, and it was always simple, and it took her a long time to do the writing, but she's clear. Okay, so what this means is here, you take these two and put them together. Complexity in English simply means you're a snob. Snobbery. So if you write in these long sentences, people aren't going to understand you, and they're just going to think you're snobbish. Everybody understands snobbish? Yes? No?
I think it's a strange word for Iranians.
Iranians, okay. Snobbery is, I'm better than you are. That's snobbery, okay? And notice how I tried to say it with a British accent, okay? That's snobbery, okay? And that's what it is. When I speak in a complex manner, I come out sounding much better than you are, okay? Trying to sound British again, okay? That's snobbery, okay?
You mean the Brits are snob?
Well, from the American side, they sound like it, and I mean, we
Yeah.
have we have what we call in American a stuffed shirt, okay? And
Mm.
I'm sure you have seen politicians in in Parliament speaking, and they're all like a stuffed shirt, and they're all formal, and they're this and that. That's not very okay. Okay, fine. So
Okay.
so if you come out with these 40-word long sentences in English, well, you're just going to be seeing people are going to say this guy's a snob. Okay, let's go on. Second reality, writing in plain English is simplicity. Okay, and you would think that's easy, but no. There's the third axiom, which is there's nothing simple about getting to simplicity. It takes a long time to get there, and I'm sure you saw that in writing your memorials, didn't you, Ali? Yes? No?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. It's really, really hard. We'll be
it's hard.
taking a look at that. Okay. So
Too many passives, too many long sentences, too many incorrect words. I don't know, that they think that it's better for them to sound complicated. This belief exists in our country and between the Iranian and also between the lawyers. Unfortunately, they only try to sound complicated for the layman not to understand them, for example, and in this way they think that they are, I don't know, at a very high position, something like that. Here's the
well,
situation. Yeah.
I've worked long and hard with a lot of lawyers in America, and quite often I will take them to task and criticize their writing, especially when they are trying to put together a contract. And I'll say, well, this means this, this means this, this means this. Is this what you're saying? And they'll look at me and they say, well, I don't know. Because what they often mean is they use all of these fancy words because they really don't know what they want to say. And when you take them to task and say, you're saying this, is that what you mean? Is you're saying this, you're saying this? And then they come up and say, well, I guess not. That's just where we go. And we'll be looking at some court cases where poor drafting has cost companies lots of money. Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's move on. But even English-speaking lawyers frequently display a marked aversion to maintaining a facilness in formulating their legal opinions. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean, Ali?
Fast. Let me read it again because it's a
Okay,
little
I'll
complicated.
read it. I'll read it aloud. Okay.
Okay.
Lawyers frequently display a marked aversion to maintaining a facilness in formulating their legal opinions.
I think lawyers try to, speak hard, maybe hard or difficult to show their opinions.
So how do you say that simply?
Lawyers, explain my
It's hard. It's not
speak.
easy.
No, it's speak hard to
Okay, speak hard. Okay.
speak difficult. I don't know. Speak frequently, speak difficult.
Lawyers don't like to keep their writing simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay. This is part of rethinking. What are you really trying to say? Good. Okay. So there are three misstatements of fact in the prosecution's opening brief.
Yeah.
I think we have, how many words does this have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Oh, we're back to the 11. Okay.
Never.
Who can make it better? Remember, I said, never do this, there are. So we're going to get rid of that. Okay. That'll bring it down to at least 9 words. So what do we do then? Who can come up with an idea? Somebody come up with an idea. Even if you have no idea what you're talking about, say something. Give it a try.
Say something, even if you're wrong. Won't be
Can
afraid
you
of
hear me?
making
No, you
mistakes.
won't be wrong. It'll be better, so it won't be wrong.
So,
That's the
should
whole
I
thing. Give it a
translate
go.
this sentence in a simpler way?
Yep.
Yes, we do. No.
I think it
Can you into
means
Farsi? Into Farsi, no.
there's
Could
some
you make it better in English?
mistake understandings about facts when they are in the prosecution. They make wrong understandings. I don't know if I'm saying it
Okay.
correctly.
Okay. Yeah, you're saying it correctly. Now, imagine you are opening your case. The prosecution has already opened its case. You're opening its case, your case, and you get up in front of the jury and you say there are three misstatements of fact in the prosecution's
I
opening
think
brief. How can you say that better?
it means
so that
there's
it hits the
three
jurors
facts that
stronger.
are understood wrongly in the prosecution. That's all I understand.
Okay. Okay, say the same thing, but get rid of there are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the rule. The rule is don't use there are. So
I don't know.
give us the same idea,
Hi.
but don't do there are.
Mhm.
It's not easy to do.
If I may,
Can we say
You're doing very
I
well.
We're doing very well, yeah.
instead of there are? Like I understood the facts wrongly
Someone else wants-
in the prosecution.
Well, you're speaking as the defense attorney, and you don't want to say, I understood three things. You want to say, you want to get the jurors to understand that the prosecution said things wrong. Okay? So that's where
I
we're
should
going.
start with the
You take
prosecution.
out the there are, start with the prosecution. Right.
Yeah.
You see,
Well,
when we
can we
move
say
things,
prosecution
when we change things, we
has
move things
three
around. Start with
misstatements
prosecution.
of facts
Tell us
in
what the
it.
prosecution did.
Okay.
Good. Okay, exactly. So we'll say the prosecution's opening brief contains three misstatements of fact. Okay? Two,
Yeah.
4, 6, 8, 9 words. Good. Okay? You see what you feel the process that we're going through. Yeah, okay. Now there was somebody else who
Hi.
had a comment. Please give us your comment. What were you going to say?
I can say, Mr. Prosecutor,
There was
you're
a-
saying three lies.
Yeah, please go. Ooh,
Really?
you don't want to say
Yes.
that the
It's
prosecution
very
is lying.
simple. And
No.
Bad, okay?
Yeah.
That's
People say
bad
like
form.
this.
You can't do that.
It's
Then
a
the
show
jury
of
is going to be against.
I think the ordinary people say it like this. They don't say
Say it again.
mistake
Say it again.
or
'Cause
mistake
you're on the right track. Say it again.
lie.
What do they say? What
I-
do they say? They say lie. So you mean you want to say the prosecution's
Yeah.
opening brief lied about 3 facts? Is that what you want to say?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, well, unfortunately, you can't do that, but you got the right idea. So what you've done is you've taken this misstatement and you've turned it into the verb to lie. Okay, how can you keep it neutral
I can say
without
instead
saying lies?
misinformation.
Well, no, that's not a verb. You turned
It's a
this,
Mm.
you turn this noun into a verb, lie, which is exactly what you want to do. So how do you
I don't
take
know.
misstatement and turn it into a verb? Okay, well, it's very easy. Misstated 3 facts. Here you had lied. Here we're just taking the same thing and we're turning it in to this. And now nobody can accuse you of saying, well, you think the prosecutor's lying. Okay, you're just saying the prosecutor misstated 3 facts. There you go. So I'm going to read the first and I'm going to read the third. And notice how how much stronger the third is, yeah, from the first. I'm sorry, the picture didn't show the misstatement. Okay, so number 1, there are 3 misstatements of fact in the prosecution's opening brief. The prosecution's opening brief misstated 3 facts. There is your case in 7 words wrapped up. And you just keep repeating that to the jury and showing how it works. This is what I mean about simplicity. Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing this all of the time until you can do it in your sleep. Okay? So this is what our trick is to do. And actually, there are very few people who can actually do it. They look at it and they look at it and they look at it and they can't move the elements around to get to what it is that they really want to say. They don't know where the strength of their action is in what they're saying. Okay, so let's go on to our exams, the exam questions that we had. Do you have any figures for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Give me a couple of seconds so that I can go to this form.
We're going to be talking about strategies, how to look at these questions and how to come up with a way of eliminating answers that simply aren't going to work. That's kind of process of elimination. That's the first thing you want to do. You have figures?
Yes, I do have figures. Yeah. So 24. We have 24 responses, so it means that 24 individuals participated in this test. And the first question, let me check it. That's the question you're presenting. Yeah, 75% answered correctly. So it represents 18 persons out of 24.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. And it's not a very easy question, actually. Now, we're going to go through this strategy. Now, you go through this strategy in your mind much faster than we're going to go through it now. But this is basically what you do. First of all, we're going to look at those. I think we're going to do it this way. Yeah, okay, fine. We're going to look at what we need to consider in the statement itself. We're going to throw most of it away. We have to know informed, but did not. Okay? Everything else is, it could be anything else. It could be not a task force. It could be something else. Okay? So what we look at is the task force should have informed, but it did not. That works. Okay? Let's look at the second one. The task force will be informed, but did not. No, that doesn't work because somebody else is informing the task force and the task force didn't. That doesn't work. Same thing, the task force would be informed. That doesn't work for the same reason. And the task force had informed but did not. Okay, well, that might work, but the task force hadn't informed the people. But you see, it's a past tense where they hadn't informed the people before the accident happened, but they didn't. But there's no before the other event that happened in the past. So in actual fact, among between the two, 1 and 4, 1 is the better answer, of course. Now notice how we eliminated 2 and 3, 2 answers we eliminated, and 2 answers are possible, and we have to choose the better. This is generally what happens. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Figures on this one.
Okay. Let me see. We have a better result here. 83.
Wow. Okay.
83.3% answered correctly. We only had 4 wrong answers, which half of them went for the second, flawless, and the other one for effortless and 1 for restless.
Okay, sure. Now, if you know what vulnerable means, then you're okay. But maybe you don't know what vulnerable means. And you're going to have a lot of situations, a lot of words where you don't know. I take the test and I come up with words. They come up with words that I don't know. And I've got a very large vocabulary for an English speaker. So we have to go through the strategy. I'm going to read the thing aloud, and you're going to see that it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. In the end, the purpose of fitness to plead laws is twofold: to balance the rights of vulnerable defendants with the need to protect the public, and to balance natural justice with the desire to see justice served. I don't even know what they're saying, okay? And no, really, what are they saying? It's one of these things. The writers of these tests go out and they look for paragraphs that are written somewhere. They're given to you without a context. You don't know where it comes from. You don't know where it's going to. It doesn't have any conclusion. And you just have to look and say, what do they mean? So where we are is, first of all, nothing in the text helps us. Okay? So all we can do is eliminate by grammar and meaning. All right. So let's look at, let's say, first of all, powerless. Can we talk about powerless defendants? Yeah, that works. That's a possibility. Can we talk about flawless defendants? No. Defendants are people. They can't be flawless. An argumentation can be flawless. A logic can be flawless, but a person can't be flawless.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work. Effortless, same thing. A defendant can't be effortless. Maybe it can be something else. But again, an attempt to do something, or it can be effortless, can be done very easily. So that doesn't work. Can a defendant be restless? Well, yeah, people can be restless when they are agitated or upset, or maybe they just don't work. But does restless go with defendant? I can't imagine a situation where it does. It could be okay, but probably, I don't know. I don't like it. So the answer, of course, is powerless. And what you've got to do back here is keep in mind that your score depends upon how many right answers you get. Now, for each group of 3 wrong answers you get, you lose 1 point from your right answers. So you have to be careful that you're balancing carefully. If you're, 80% sure that powerless is better than restless, go ahead and do it. If you're not sure, if you're, 50-50, you have to make the decision. Am I going to risk? If you think restless is better, if you think restless is 80%, then you're not paying attention to what you've just studied, because you're not going to want restless to be 80%. It's still under question. So there are all kinds of things to consider here. Okay, let's go to the third one. Okay, there's powerless. Okay, well, let's have the statistics first.
I imagine this was the hardest for the students because only 48% of them answered correctly.
That's good, because this is a hard one. Okay, and again, let's look at what our key words are, and it's not very much. Exterminates and extinct. Now, you may or may not know what it means. And the issue is here, if you know what it means, you know what it means. If you don't know what it means, you don't know what it means. I look at it and I say, is there anything that we can do to try to find it out? And I don't see anything here. I mean, even if you don't know Latin. Well, if you know French and Italian and Spanish and all of that stuff, you can probably figure it out. But that means, a lot. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to look again at each thing grammatically. I'm going to read the whole sentence, and then we're going to see which one of these fits in. When experimental populations are set up under simple laboratory conditions, well, we're going to throw all of that away. We don't care about experimentations. We're going to say the predator often exterminates its prey and then becomes extinct itself. Okay? Now, we say, while having nothing be left to be eaten. No. While having nothing left to be eaten could work, but it's not written that way. So we have to get rid of be. One, we eliminate it. Okay? And having nothing left to be eaten, no, then becomes extinct itself and has nothing left. Once you have an and, you have to have the same form of the verb, okay? Becomes and has. So that doesn't work. We're off there, okay? So now, then becomes extinct itself by having nothing left to eat. Well, yeah, we're back to what we had before. It's okay, it looks good. And then becomes extinct itself, having nothing left to eat. That's also good. So, which is better? By having left nothing to eat or by having nothing left to eat? Well, if we look at 3, by having left nothing to eat, that sounds like by having left nothing for other people to eat or other animals to eat. So, you see, by tends to mean by leaving nothing, others nothing to eat. But they're dying, they're exterminating themselves because they don't have anything left to eat. So that means 4 is the one that works, okay? This is the better choice. And again, we're down to eliminate 2 and pick the one that works. So, this is.
I have a question.
Go, please.
I don't actually understand exactly how you can understand that there was a word like others and were not mentioned in this sentence. Can you please clarify it?
Okay, because by having left means I leave something behind. I left my books at home. And I got to school and I found I have left my books at home. So by having left nothing to eat, well, why would you leave something to eat if you need to eat yourself? So if you're leaving something, you're leaving it for somebody else to eat, and it just doesn't fit the connotations. But having nothing left, okay, I have nothing left to do in my homework today, so I can go to the movies.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
And if you just read it to yourself, and then becomes extinct itself, having nothing left to eat, that makes sense. But you say then becomes extinct itself, having left nothing to eat, it doesn't make sense. So when you do it to yourself, you almost really have to verbalize it, sometimes just to say to
Another
yourself.
question I have.
Yeah.
For option number 2, you said that it's having and it should be has, because we have two verbs before that, before the blank. We have exterminates and we have becomes. But why don't you apply the same thing in number 4?
Number 4, because we have a comma here, okay?
Yeah.
And the whole thing, I should have mentioned the comma here because, and then becomes extinct itself. Oops, sorry. And has nothing left to eat. You wouldn't have a comma there. You know that the comma is going to be usually meaning some kind of a gerund or an ing form like this, just the way the grammar puts it together. Okay. Sorry, we want to do old ways. Any other
Another
questions?
question. Sorry,
Go.
I have another question. If we had a sentence that beginning with and, like option number 2, do we still have the comma here or not? We shouldn't use comma when we have and in English.
Okay, it's a very interesting point, but and itself doesn't mean a comma. It's what you have, okay? If you say the predator often exterminates its prey and then becomes extinct itself and has nothing left for eating, you don't use commas.
Yeah.
If however you say the predator often exterminates its prey and then it becomes extinct and it dies or whatever, then you have commas when you are repeating the subject. Okay.
Yeah.
When you have a repetition of subject. The interesting thing is that and is what we call a coordinating conjunction, and coordinating conjunctions work differently than a conjunction like because it has nothing to eat. Okay. You can have two phrases. The prey, let's see, the prey often exterminates its prey, and it then has nothing to eat. You have to have a comma. But wouldn't work in this situation because it doesn't work here. But we'll be talking about the difference between these different kind of coordinating conjunctions. Sorry, we've got coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. And the coordinating conjunctions take commas. The subordinating conjunctions don't take commas. And I know I'm speaking in a way that makes no sense, and I have a hard time saying it because I have to think of the examples of how it works. But that's how it goes. Did that answer your question or not?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay. I will try never to answer a question that way because it's like trying to read Kant and figuring out what all of this means. We look at examples, and through the examples we make our own rules, and that's what acquiring is. Because it's a kid. How does a kid know that he has to say the grass is green instead of the grass are green?
Mm-hmm. So another option of maybe reason for eliminating option number 2 could be that we have a comma in the question. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And sometimes you can go back and with the comma get further confirmation that you should be doing it that way. But Commas are tricky things because we don't have exact rules in English. But in this case, I think it would be, especially for this kind of a test.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, let's just go on. A few more things I want to say. Think creatively, because old ways won't open new doors. And I mean really think creatively and outside of the box, just like this. Follow new rules and you'll start doing this, stepping outside of your box. You step outside for a little bit and you say, oh, that works. And then you come to something else and you go back into your box. And you try to apply the same rules and you step in, step out, step out, step in, step out, step in. And pretty soon you find yourself being more out than in, and that's when you're really doing the things. But it takes a lot of work, okay? And you'll start doing this if you work on improving your English. And there are 3 points on improving your English. We talked about this in the first promo. I'm just going to go through it again because I don't care what you say. It's absolutely essential. Time, discipline, and strangely enough, behavior modification. In terms of time, we have to have both quantity of time, enough time, and the quality of time. I mean, if you want to study English, you come home after a long, hard day, and you get home at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you fix yourself some dinner, and by 9:30 you're sitting down and you're starting to study English. No, you don't have quality time. You don't have the ability. You do it, but it's wasted effort. If, however, let's say, and I do this myself, you have to write a brief, and you've got enough time, you get up early in the morning, and I mean early, 6 o'clock, you're writing your brief. You'd be surprised at what you can accomplish in 3 hours. In fact, in 3 hours, you can accomplish in quality time all of your writing for the entire day. That would take, 5, 6 hours, maybe 8 hours during the regular part of the day. There's just something about language learning happens in the morning, and that's where your quality is. The other thing, well, that's where your quality is. So we've talked about the quantity and the quality. The interesting thing is that if you focus on your quality doesn't have to be as much. And one of the things I recommend to my students is, and I'll do this the minute we start, I'll say, okay, every day I want you to get up in the morning and for 10 minutes, listen to something in English. Listen to it while you're making your breakfast, while you're feeding your kids, while you're dressing, whatever. You don't even need to understand it. Just listen. Do the same thing in the evening. And what this does is it establishes English through your life. And pretty soon you'll find that you wake up in the morning and, oh, yeah, I'm thinking in English. Okay, it works. So that's what I mean about both the quantity and the quality of your time. Discipline. You've got to sacrifice something. As I like to say, there's no English pill. It's not like aspirin that you can take to reduce your temperature. You've got to give something up so that you can use that time and that effort for English. And here are the things that suffer. Your household tasks suffer. Your fun time suffers. Your sleep time suffers. Maybe especially for women, the fashion, the pretty dresses you like to wear, and the fancy hairdos you like to use, or the makeup you like to put on, that goes by the wayside. Although maybe fashion is not quite so popular in Iran as it is in here in Russia. Women love their fashion stuff. Work time. You are going to have to sacrifice some of your work time, and you just have to say, I'm sorry. I work 8 hours a day, or I work many hours a day, but I'm not going to work forever. Okay. Family time. You lose some of that. And behavior modification. Okay. Think of the old-fashioned radios that had the tubes. You turn it on and go, and then you would hear voices. Okay. This is because everything is all hardwired. We don't have hardwired stuff. I mean, there are no wires between what we're talking now. Okay. that is creativity. What I mean is that lawyers have to work with people who are in positions of power. And as such, lawyers are also in positions of power. And they're used to having things done a certain way. And that's usually the way they like things. So if it isn't that way, then they try to make it that way. Well, unfortunately, English isn't going to change itself because you don't like the way it's constructed. You have to give up your hard wiring and try to be more flexible. And that's what I mean, behavior modification. If you don't modify your behavior in terms of how you use English, you're going to reach a certain level and you're just going to stop there. You're not going to go any further. So you've got to be willing to modify your behavior. And in fact, many times I feel as if sometimes I have to act more or less as a language tutor and more as a psychologist in helping people get through their language problems. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say today. I'm going to stop the presentation